Hello, and welcome to our annual assessment training. First, let's talk briefly about what an annual assessment is. An annual assessment is basically a snapshot of how the client is doing in the program year after year. Annual assessments are given every year that the client is in the program based on the client's project start date. There's a 60-day window to complete these annual assessments. That's 30 days prior to the client's project start date and 30 days after the client's project start date. We base these annual assessments on the head of household's project start date. Okay, so let's take a look at how to identify. One way to identify clients that may need an annual assessment or have one already in HMIS. So I'm here on the home workspace, and I'm going to go over to my client track and open that folder and come down to open enrollments and then select open enrollments with most recent assessment. Next, I will select the program. It's going to be DCED Emergency Solutions Grant Rapid Rehousing Program. And then I'll select the assessment type, annual. Now here you'll see a box next to last assessment older than number of days. So here I can enter a day number, such as 90, hit enter, and then this last assessment older than is going to change to 90 days ago. So what that means is that this column here will show the last assessment on or before this date here, and this column here will show the last assessment after this date here, on or after this date here. Now, if I leave it blank, it's going to default over to today's day. And so this will be the last assessment on or before today's date, and then any assessment date after, on or after today's date. So as we look at the client here, we have client test 10, and they were enrolled on 8/15/2021, 373 days enrolled, and they were given an assessment today. So today is day 0, and because it's on or before and on or after, this is also showing up on this side as well. Next, we have test 11 client, their household. There's 2 people in this household, and they have been enrolled for 379 days. Their enrollment date was 8/9/21, so they are in their 60-day window, and they received their assessment on 8/23. Next is test 13 client's household, and they have been enrolled for 387 days. They were enrolled on August 1st of 2021, and there is no assessment present. So now there's a couple of ways we can do an annual assessment. The first one is if we look over here at the icons, the select client icon will take us directly to the client's dashboard. The perform annual assessment icon will start the annual assessment. Now this perform annual assessment icon, we're going to make sure that we have the head of household first. Always do the annual assessments for the head of household first. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that because they need an assessment. And it's going to start the workflow. So the first thing it's going to do, it's going to land on the enrollments page. And this will give me the opportunity to verify this information, As you can see on the enrollments page is where the house and move-in date is located. And next it's going to ask, is this a new during program enrollment update or a new annual assessment? I'm going to choose new annual assessment. And the first assessment is going to be the universal data assessment. You'll see here where it's asking if we want to default in the client's last assessment. If we go ahead and click on that, it will not bring in the prior living situation, but it will default in the rest of the information, and then we can simply verify or edit that information. Next, we see here we have some gray areas. The gray indicates that they cannot be changed. And then we come down to the health insurance portion of the EDA. Covered by health insurance, I'm going to go ahead and say yes. As you can see, it's a yes, no drop down with the client doesn't know, client refused, and data not collected options. And from here, I'm going to select Medicaid and yes. Now, I do not have to fill in the rest of this. I can just hit save. Then we're going to come to the income and sources non-cash benefits. So income from any source, I'm going to say yes, and that's going to open up that screen. Same thing for non-cash benefits and expenses. Now, because I said yes to income from any source, I will have to put in a monthly amount for one or more of these. So I'm going to say earned income is $1,300, and there is another pension that is $500. And if you come down here, you'll see that the total is $1,800 and that there's two sources of income. For non-cash benefits, I'm going to go ahead and click on this box and fill in, let's see, $350. Now, I do not have to put in a dollar amount here. I can take this out and it will still save and allow me to move on. Here we have expenses. The 8 most likely expenses are listed here, or we can go into the expense group and choose one of those. So if I go to automotive, I can come here and say, yes, there's a car payment, there's car insurance, and there's gasoline. Those are all expenses. And then I'll fill in the amount. It's $550 for the car payment, another $130 for the insurance, and then $225 for the gasoline. So it adds up the total, and you can see here there's 3 expenses with a total of $905. And now I can hit save and close. Okay, so we have completed the annual assessments for the head of household. Next, we're going to do test orange client, who is the minor in the house. And again, we're going to say this is a new annual assessment. Again, it's going to ask us if we want to default in, and the grayed out areas cannot be changed. We'll come down here to the covered by health. I'm going to say yes, and we're going to say the CHIP program is yes, and then we're going to hit save. And that is it for the minor, just the universal data assessment. Come through the workflow to the page where it says you're done. All required steps have been completed. And then we can finish and close the window. So we have completed that annual assessment. Now I'm going to show you the other way to complete an annual assessment is if we look through here, we can see that, well, let's update this page so that we get the correct information. Okay. We can now see that test 13 client, their household has annual assessments completed. And then if we go down to one more, we can see that test 14 client's household has been enrolled for 357 days. So they are in their window because it is 30 plus or minus this date right here. So 830 plus 30 days plus or minus 8/31/2022. Well, last time we clicked on perform annual assessment. This time we can click on select client. And that's going to take us to the client's dashboard. So if you know that your client needs an annual assessment, you can always come to the client's dashboard and click on the ellipsis. You do not have to go through the home menu. You can just come to your client's dashboard, click on the ellipsis, and say that you want to update annual assessment. And it will take you through the same process. It's going to take you to the enrollment page, and you'll just verify that information, and you'll select no changes. And then it's going to ask you, is this an update or a new annual assessment? We'll say it's a new annual assessment. It's all the same through the workflow. It's going to ask you if you want to default in. You'll have the grayed out areas, and then we'll come down to the health insurance. And this time I'm going to say yes, and it's Medicaid, and hit save. Now this time, the next time it's going to ask me income and sources and non-cash benefits. I'm going to say no. And when I select no, you'll notice that none of the other menus appear, and I can just hit save and close. And that is it. I am done with this client's annual assessment. I've come to the You're Done page, and I can finish and close the workflow. And now the workflow is completed. So there's a couple of ways I can check to be sure that the annual assessment is done for my client. I can come in here and click on the ellipsis, look at associated assessments, and then it'll show that on 8/23/2022 there was an annual assessment done. If I want to see those assessments, I again click on the ellipsis and choose Review Detailed Assessments. And then it'll show me the 2 assessments that were done. If I click on the green, it'll actually pull up those assessments and I can review. The other way is to go to the home screen. And again, we're going to reload this page. Select our program and the assessment type. And then we'll come down to test 14 client, and we can now see that there was an assessment done on 8/23/22. And if we come down here to client 9 test, we can see that they were enrolled for 365 days. Their enrollment date was 8/23/2021, and they received their annual assessment on 8/17/2022. It's been 6 days since they received that annual assessment, and there's been no other assessment done since then. Okay, so that covers it for annual assessments.